Man, there are so many stories out there now about this explosion of white on black violence. I'm not talking about real stories. I'm talking about a fake story that appears here or there, then all of a sudden it is embraced by an enormous number of black people and their liberal enablers that they can use here, there, everywhere, this page, our Facebook page, and Twitter, to claim that, Colin, you just don't know the numbers, you're not keeping up with all the white on black violence, and when we ask for a link, we always get something that's very, very old, or we're just waved away saying, oh, I'm not going to do your research for you, go back and research the history of slavery. Meanwhile, this ridiculous level of black on white violence that is real, that we document here, that just keeps happening. And so on this story, why don't we do the gamut? We'll go from murder to stealing candy from a baby. And you tell me, are these stories different in quality, or are they just different in this in kind of in the scale? I mean, are these stories all on the same scale? One is a 10, one is a 9, one is an 8, or are they totally different things? You tell me.
Friends of a man who was killed after an apparent parking spot dispute, looking for answers tonight. It happened Tuesday right outside Park Timbers Apartments in Louisville, right along Business 121. The shooter, as of tonight, is still on the run. Our Steve Pickett live in Louisville with more on the victim involved here. Steve?
Yeah, his name is Will Booker. His girlfriend lived here at this apartment complex. Police, frankly, need help on this case, and they deem it ironic because they believe a number of people may have seen exactly what happened with this shooting right outside of this apartment complex near State Highway 121. Michael Defro still can't comprehend what happened just 2 doors away from him.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, man. A parking spot, somebody lost their life over a parking spot.
Will Booker is the man who lost his life. His friends raised a glass in his memory Wednesday inside Tees Bar and Grill. Booker was found with at least 1 gunshot, just yards from Tees. But the conflict that surrounds his death started outside his girlfriend's apartment. Police say Booker's motorcycle was blocked by a car in this parking lot. The driver of that car shot the 36-year-old after the two argued. Well, we're talking about a parking spot.
A parking spot, absolutely. We're talking about 2 people that don't know each other.
Police cannot find the man who pulled the trigger, despite knowing that gunman was also visiting someone living in this same apartment complex as Will Booker's girlfriend.
We feel very confident there were cars in the area that saw this happen. We would like to know if any witnesses that saw this happen who could indicate a license plate.
Okay, this could be the worst story, not just of this report, but from many, many reports. There's a story of a black person who beat and raped a pregnant woman on the streets of Cincinnati. But here's where it gets crazy. The guy who stalked and attacked and attempted to rape this pregnant woman, he just got out of some kind of prison or mental health facility 4 days before. If you read this article in the Cincinnati papers, you will see that over the last 2 years, he's been arrested and detained for some ridiculously violent crimes along the way. Assault, robbery, attempted rape, groping, 4, 5, 6 times. But 4 days before this attack happened, he was under arrest for some ridiculously violent episode of black on white crime. And the social worker said, no, we cannot cure him. He's mentally ill. He's so bad we can't even cure him. So if you're a judge, what's your reaction to that? Stick him in a slammer somewhere, put him on some kind of hold, or let him go? Give him a get out of jail free card. Well, that's what they did. They gave this dude a get out of jail free card, and a couple of days later, he's out doing the same thing. Now they have the same problem. The dude's crazy. He's mentally ill. That means we have to let him go, right? That's how insane this is. Let's look at this next story. You tell me if the people involved in this ridiculous act of violence against an 89-year-old white woman who gives out candy, are they any different than the guy we just met? Are they any different in craziness than that guy?
On camera tonight, an elderly woman says she was attacked and robbed while handing out candy to a group of kids.
News 10's Chris Walker spoke with the woman known as the Candy Lady in South Lansing. She joins us now live in the newsroom with her story and the shocking video. Chris?
Yes, Ruth Ann Pugh says for almost 3 decades she's been passing out candy to kids in the neighborhood every Sunday. Now that tradition has come to a rest after Ruth Ann says she was pushed down and robbed.
There won't be any more candy, and that just makes me feel sad that, you know, it was something that I could share with the kids, and I got to see them and see them smile.
Ruth Ann Pugh says the candy shop is closed for good.
I said, well, this generation won't know who the Candy Lady is. That's what they call me.
A shop where you didn't need money to get a treat. All you had to do was say the right thing.
If they knew the magic words, please and thank you.
Miss Ruth Ann, may I please have a sucker?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Earlier this month, the 73-year-old says a group of kids showed up to her door and left their manners at home. This surveillance video from her security system shows they wanted more than candy.
All of a sudden, the taller one pushed me into the house and onto the floor and kicked on me and said, "Stay down."
Ruth Ann says another kid came inside, stole her purse, and took off in her car.
And they grabbed my key and out the door and into my car, and away they went.
The Candy Lady says the attack left her bruised and in pain.
I spent about 5 hours in the hospital being checked over because I had a really bad hurt shoulder, had a black eye, had some bruising on my leg here.
An attack Ruth Ann says has made her close her door and keep her sweets.
Hugs for all of you. Miss Ruth Ann, Candy Lady.
You know, if you read the black news magazines like Griot, Root, HuffPo, Black Voices, and you look up the topic of black mental illness, you will see a very sympathetic treatment of it. You'll see that black people are more mentally ill than white people by a factor of 3, 4, 5, 10, who knows how many. But as many as 25, 30, 35, 40% of black people say they are mentally ill. And that's the get out of free card now? That's the get out of jail free card now? That's a reason for permanent disability now, a permanent check. Trump talks about the black unemployment down. Other people talk about welfare going down. So welfare is paid by the states. Disability, Social Security disability is paid by the federal government. We've done a podcast on this, where people that work for the state have their marching orders, which is remove people from welfare and stick them on disability. Get a check for free for the rest of your life. Why? Because you're crazy enough to go up to a little old lady who gives out candy and push her over, or you're crazy to keep assaulting people, including white pregnant women in the street, or you're crazy to shoot a person over a parking spot in an apartment complex. Is this the act of sane people? Well, of course it's not the act of sane people. Not by any standard definition of it, but really it's like, you know, I remember one time, this was more than a couple years ago, somebody in Jamaica killed somebody. He was crazy, they said. They took him out and hung him anyway. Had a trial, took him out and hung him. They said, how could you do that person? They said, in Jamaica, you're allowed to be crazy. You're just not allowed to go around killing people. We're pointing out the difference between being crazy and liable, and also being liable for your criminal behavior. Man, that sure as hell is going to make a lot of black kids angry.